In 1975, the nation would stand still. Peter Sutcliffe was the serial killer that seemed unstoppable. An elusive killer, stalking his victims in the dead of night. He was claiming the lives of poor vulnerable women on the streets of Leeds and Bradford, and even Greater Manchester. The gruesome and barbaric killings left women up and down the country scared to leave the comfort of their own surroundings, and nobody was safe. This sick and twisted individual lurked in the shadows and brutally attacked and murdered women almost without detection. For 5 harrowing years, Sutcliffe was prowling the streets, viciously murdering 13 poor women along the way, and attempting to kill around 7 more. Striking similarities were made to the infamous Jack the Ripper and the Whitechapel murders that took place back in 1888, and seemingly at times it appeared that history was repeating itself. Almost 100 years on, and the birth of the title was given to this modern day serial killer, and he went by the name of the Yorkshire Ripper. Claw hammers and tools seemed to be his preferred weapon of choice. A personal and brutal ending awaited the unaware women that he attacked, and for years, police were no further to catch him, what seemed to be the ultimate bogeyman. A few telltale signs here and there, and a couple of eyewitness accounts were all the police could go off. Everyone was a suspect. The pressure was on the police, and with each killing, he proved to be one step ahead.
There are 5,000 police officers in this force, not a small force by any means. Each one of those, as they go out on their patrols today, will be thinking and looking and wanting to do something about this murder.
A picture of a man, middle-aged, 35 to 45 perhaps, an individual who has not previously come to the notice of the police, a man of hitherto perfectly good character who could be pursuing a normal occupation.
But there was one of the Yorkshire Ripper's murders that stood out. A murder so shocking, it even surprised Peter Sutcliffe himself. It wasn't like any of his previous killings that were predominantly in the dark. This was in a flat of a busy residential area, in the comfort of somebody's own home, and it was the killing of Patricia Atkinson. Patricia was a 32-year-old woman from Bradford and the Ripper's 4th victim. A known prostitute to the area, but a much-loved character at the same time. She was a regular face of Bradford's red light district, but Patricia fell on hard times, like many other women of the area. On the night of her death, she'd been drinking heavily at the local pubs, Perseverance and the Carlisle. These were her regular haunts. Between 10:15 and 10:30, she was thrown out of the pub as she attempted to visit her next destination, the International. But somewhere between the Carlisle pub and the International, she encountered the presence of Sutcliffe. And fatally, she got in his car. Sutcliffe was cruising for business. They drove to a flat on Oak Avenue, under the pretences of having a good time. But little did she know what a good time meant for the Yorkshire Ripper. As they got out of the car and made their way to Patricia's flat, Sutcliffe grabbed his trusty claw hammer and bundled it into his coat, and in Sutcliffe's own words, he said this: "I followed her into the flat, and she closed the curtains and hung my coat up.
Give us your coat. I'll hang it up.
She took her coat off and sat on the bed. I went up to her and I hit her in the back of the head with a hammer. She fell off the bed onto the floor. And that was the first time that I noticed red blood. Before it had always been dark, but this time it was light, and I saw lots of blood on the bed. When she was on the floor,
I hit her another twice or 3 times.
I think she was lying face down when I left her. When I first hit her, she was making this horrible gurgling sound, and she carried on making the noise even though I'd hit her a few times. She was still making the gurgling noise when I left.
I knew she'd be in no fit state to tell anybody. Drove home, put my car in the garage.
And I looked at my clothes. Saw I had blood on the bottom of my jeans. I went in the house and my wife was in bed. Took my jeans off, rinsed them under a cold tap, and hung them up. Trying to think what I did with a claw hammer. I think I used it again on a woman, and then I threw it away over a wall, near Sharp's printers in Cottonley. At the time, I carried on, as though nothing had happened. A chilling and descriptive confession from the Yorkshire Ripper, who took advantage of defenceless, vulnerable poor women that had no idea what awaited them. Today, the flat is in a decaying state. Graffiti decorates the once walls that were people's homes, as the elements expose the fragility of the building. But sat alone within the carcass of the flats was Patricia Atkinson's old home. In the room that she took her very last breath in. The echoes of the past still reverberate around the ghostly corridors that was once host to Britain's most notorious serial killer. The very floorboards that bared the footsteps of pure evil. And with the opportunity to document this location, and the aim to visit the very flat, we decided to do so. The goal is to shed some light on Patricia's life, tell her story, so that a memory wouldn't be forgotten. We entered into what was once a blood-soaked room, and it shook the nation to the core. The photos cast an eerie reminder of the evil that tarnished this location. And the poor life taken of a young woman, a daughter, a sister, and a friend to many. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Oak Avenue. So here we are, and this is where it all happened. This is Patricia's house. Wow, feels very, very weird. You can see there, Patricia there, Pat, R.I.P. Tina was a sort of nickname. Fucking hell. But this is really, really eerie, to say the least. Wearing bangs everywhere. So I don't want to be sticking around here too long. But even the old light fixtures there. It's crazy to think that this was a murder scene, you know. Unimaginable horror took place in this room. And the Ripper walked through that very doorway where you can see. I can't even describe. I'm pretty lost for words, if I'm being honest. But the atmosphere in this room is like nothing I've ever experienced. Wow. It's bizarre to think that pure evil, you know, came into this room and did what he did. And poor Tina didn't have a clue. You'll have seen all the history in the beginning of the video, so I don't need to delve into it, but this is basically the scene of the crime.
His victim, 33-year-old Peter Atkinson.
Where Peter Sutcliffe took the life of Patricia Atkinson. And this was her flat. It's a place you don't want to spend too much time in. As you can probably hear, I'm quite nervous if I'm being honest. But this has got such a strange vibe. You know, to think of he knew in the back of his mind what he was going to do. And he fulfilled his fantasy basically in this room. Like you say, look at that, the old light fixture's still there. If walls could talk, eh? So, this is another room here. Don't know if it was a bathroom of some sort, maybe. Maybe this was a bathroom. And then this is the hallway, there's the actual light switch as well. Wow. And then this looks like where the toilet pipe is, so this would have been the toilet. Well, maybe this was the bathroom as well, I'm not too sure, but even the tiles, look at the tiles. These will be the original tiles. Wow. So strange, honestly. I'm not even just saying it, this is really weird. Just taking you next door too. So this would have been another flat, obviously, of the neighbour. Wonder if she heard any commotion that night. Whoever it were that lived in here at the time. But it's strange, just been walking around some of these flats and, you know, you can sort of feel like, well, you know they've been lived in, but you can still feel the echoes of the past and the people that lived in these places. You know, it's almost like in your mind's eye you can see what they would have seen. But can you imagine the terror on the streets and, you know, the residents of this block? Can you even imagine the terror when they found out that the neighbour had been brutally killed and the Ripper had actually walked in their sort of territory, in their home? You know, it's bizarre to think it was literally on the doorstep. But I can hear banging above me, which is weird, so I'm not going to be staying in there much longer. So I hope you can appreciate having the minerals and the balls to actually come in somewhere like this and film. Weird, innit?
Yeah, it's still weird, I must admit.
Weird to think it went on right here and we stood here.
Yeah.
You know, it was all over the news, and not even just that, like the poor woman, the last few moments of her life was
here.
Yeah, was here.
Not knowing it was going to be the last day on earth. just thought it was another punter.
The last few moments of her life, though, was a brutal agony and torture, you know?
You just think, because bloody footprint was there, so he must have done it, looked at her, realised she was dead, threw the linen.
Yeah, so he came in and he did what he did, and then they followed the footprints, the police, out the door, and then they said that there was he sort of turned back and came back in, rearranged the sort of body how he wanted it to look. Strange, because like I say, the fixtures and the fittings have been original.
Yeah.
That door looks like, you know what I mean? Look at the door.
I mean, it
Yeah.
struck, this was April 77, it already struck in February, Irene Richardson, the 3rd. So he was on a killing spree, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So February, April, and then so he went on to kill another 9 after Patricia Artina, she was known.
You know, not with like getting into sort of ghosts and stuff like that, but you can definitely feel like something bad has taken place in this room. You can still feel residual energy here from the people that lived in here and the events that took place, and it feels like there's people around you. Just want to give a massive shout out to a mate of mine called Matt Parks. I'll leave his video link down below, because after watching his video on it, I had to come here. So without Matt, I wouldn't have even come to this location. So I'll leave a link down below to his channel and his video, because he's done his take on this too. I don't want to linger around here too much, because it's not a very nice place to be. And you can feel the emotion and terror that has gone on in this very flat. So I'm going to leave it here.
As the years rolled on, the bodies piled up. The police were under intense pressure to capture this cowardly psychopath that seemed to be giving him the slip. George Oldfield was the lead investigator for the West Yorkshire Police. He had a bullish nature and a determination to capture the Ripper. But if the truth be told, he was completely out of his depth. A series of hoax letters and the infamous Wearside Jack tape was sent directly to Oldfield, which led him to believe that the Ripper wasn't from Yorkshire at all, but a Geordie, as the voice on the tapes was that of a man with a northeast accent.
I'm Jack. I see you are still having no luck catching me. I have the greatest respect for you, George. But Lord, you are no nearer catching me now than 4 years ago when I started. I reckon your boys are letting you down, George. They can't be much good, can they?
It's easy to be critical, but we've got to not lose sight of is this, that he has got the initiative every time. He picks his place, he picks his time, he picks his victim, he picks the weather conditions, when everything is to his advantage. If I had at my disposal every police officer in the United Kingdom, no way could I say that I can guarantee that this man can't strike again.
Oldfield threw all his eggs in one basket and would only listen to cases which involved someone from the Newcastle or Sunderland area. But this proved fatal, as more and more bodies and assaults were clocking up around the Leeds and Bradford area. And as a result, many innocent, defenceless women were taken by the hands of Sutcliffe, who at the time probably thought he was getting away with murder. And he was. Or so he thought. There was a breakthrough. 2 sharp-eyed policemen made a routine spot check on a parked Rover car. Inside the car was a bearded man and a prostitute, Olivia Rivers. On inspection, the police came to the conclusion that the registration plates didn't match the Rover he was driving. They arrested him and followed the Ripper procedure that all men were prostitutes were to be taken to the station for questioning. At first they found nothing incriminating, but then one of the officers remembered that the suspect asked to relieve himself before he went to the station. The officer went back to the exact spot that Sutcliffe went. There he found a hammer and a sharp knife, and later another knife was found in the police station toilets. After 3 days of intense questioning, Sutcliffe broke, and he said, "The Yorkshire Ripper, that's me."
And when the police were questioning me, I said, I'm dying for a wee, so I'll just go for a wee. So I did, and I put these implements in below a bush. I was going to throw them over the wall, but I didn't, because I thought it might make a noise and they might realise, I didn't hear anything. They took me back to the police station at Sheffield, and then they searched me and didn't find anything, and then they realised, one of them realised that I'd gone for a wee, and so he went back there and looked. It was only by sheer fluke that I got caught. It wasn't through clever detective work. But they try to take credit for things which they don't deserve, and they were too stupid to realise that there were all black tape around the edges of the number plates when they were taped on. I couldn't confide in anybody, my mother or Sonia or anybody, between me and God, Well, they had an idea, they had the suspicions, but they didn't have proof until I told them. It was a relief for me, really. It was a relief to get it off my chest. The whole thing was a farce anyway, as far as I'm concerned. It was just a plumbing farce. And when they found me guilty of murder, it meant all those other things as well that are not true. They said it was a sex act to stab them in the chest or whatever. And, and that was ridiculous. They said it was a sexual motive. Well, how else do you stab somebody,
So that right there, that's the house of Peter Sutcliffe. Wasn't going to film it really, but I feel like we sort of have to. But I don't even know what to say. I mean, that way you can see there, that was his garage and his shed where he kept all of his tools, and he lived in that actual house there. And I mean, it's not even that far really from where we've just been to the flat and the cemetery, but behind that door is where Peter Sutcliffe lived the double life. And I think his wife his ex-wife might actually still live there. But yeah, eerie to think that he made his way every day up this street here, past these houses, and then to that very house where the secrets lie within the walls of what are, one of Britain's most evilest men lived.
Sutcliffe was charged in 1981. At the trial, he pleaded not guilty to 13 charges of murder, but guilty to manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibilities. His defence was that he claimed to be a tool of God's will. Sutcliffe said that he heard voices that ordered him to kill prostitutes whilst working as a gravedigger.
You must kill them. You must kill them.
Which he claimed originated from the headstone of Bronislaw Sapolsky.
Stick to the mission.
And the voices were that of God. He referred to it as his mission.
Stick to the mission.
To rid the streets
Rid the streets
from filth.
Thought some of the lads were having a bit of fun at first. I got up and looked round, I couldn't see anybody. Nobody hiding in the bushes in the distance or behind any gravestones. And I walked up the slope and I heard it coming directly. It was like in a wonderland, you know, like a miracle happening. It's on this grave and it said Bronislaw Zapolsky. I always remember that. I was awestruck. It was like an echoey voice, echoing, superimposed upon itself. And then the voice came for the second time. Well, I'd been saying things good for about 2 years, but this time it was giving me advice that wasn't really good, saying that there's a problem in society. Don't you realise why you've had the good advice for 2 years? It's all been leading up to this. You've got a mission to go on and get rid of these people. Get rid of these people.
So, like I say, we're in the graveyard now and we're going to try and locate Patricia's grave and pay our respects to her, really. My dad's just gone off trying to find it while I do this. But yeah, let's move on and try and find this grave now. So, just making our way over now to the grave. It's a massive cemetery, this place. Absolutely huge. It goes all the way back that way. But me and my dad have been scratching our heads because we've been looking for a cross, because pictures online of a grave is a cross. But I'm really happy to see that they've removed the cross and they've actually given her quite a nice headstone. And this is the final resting place of Patricia Atkinson, and it says in loving memory of Patricia Atkinson, Mitra, 1944 to 1977. Wherever you have walked, there's a trail of beautiful memories, always loved, forever missed. And I think that is so much better than what she had. It's really good to know that there's some sort of pride, you know, put into a final resting place. So may you rest in peace, Patricia, and I'm sure you're missed by every single person that you knew.
The end of terror. A beast behind bars. From the souls that were taken of the poor women, to the survivors of his brutal attacks.
Someone wants to get hold of you and do the same things to you as well.
Nothing can be undone to heal the pain. Families torn apart.
Jane was a beautiful girl. You took life from her. You destroyed her family in one way or another. Her father just deteriorated.
Children without the mum. And parents without the daughters.
Just think of us mothers, how we feel about our children.
Sutcliffe was the ultimate coward. A murderous psychopath. Living a double life. And preying on vulnerable women. Was justice given? Never in a million years. But I suppose justice will be served on the other side.
So there you have it. Now, that is the video for today. It's a very spontaneous one, and one that I knew I had to go and film quickly. Like I say, massive thank you to Matt. I'll leave a link down below to his channel, and make sure you go and give him a sub. He's a cracking guy and he's got great content, but it's a bit further afield for me, this. I normally stick around Salford and Manchester, but sometimes you have to venture further afield for fascinating stories, and I know that this one's a very, very dark one, probably my darkest to date, and very sombre, but it is something that I knew I had to come and document and film while it was still available, basically. But I'll never forget that feeling of walking in that room. It was an experience I've never felt before. Very, very strange and eerie, like I keep saying, but it really was. And just being in the whole flats, it's got a very thick atmosphere in there, and you can definitely feel when you walk in her room that something very, very bad and evil has touched that place. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you taking the time out to watch this video, and I know it is a very dark one. So I just hope you find it sort of informative, and it's a part of the history and the culture, sadly, of England, and it shook the nation to the core, this story. So that's why I wanted to get out and film it. And I do get fascinated by true crime documentaries as well, like many of us. So if you like the video, you know, I'd really appreciate it if you would consider subscribing to the channel. And like I say, it just helps us push a little bit further and makes people aware, you know, of stories of the past, even if they are dark like this one, or they are, you know, I try and cover a variety of topics, from nostalgia to everything, which many of you will know already. But from time to time I will delve into the darker side of life and the darker side of the past. So thank you so much for watching, and make sure you look after yourselves. Take care and see you all soon. Cheers.